The city wakes the next morning wrapped in silver mist, as if the world itself is uncertain of what happened the night before. The gala is over, but its echo lingers, a glance, a smile, a silence that spoke more than any conversation could. Vivian lies awake in her Manhattan hotel suite, sunlight spilling through the sheer curtains. The city moves outside her window, alive and relentless, but inside, time stands still. Her thoughts drift to his face, older, wiser, softer, and the way his eyes had held that same kindness she once fell for. She tells herself it was just a meeting, nothing more. Two people catching up after a lifetime apart. But deep down, she knows better. Something inside her had stirred, something she thought had long turned to memory. It wasn't longing, not exactly. It was recognition of who she once was, and who she might still be if she let herself feel again. She runs her hand through her hair, sighing, and looks at the city below. Maybe New York isn't done with her yet. Across town, Edward stands at a small cafe window, his coffee untouched, his mind lost in last night's moments. He's spent decades mastering logic and reason, but love has never followed either. For years, he'd convinced himself that chapter was closed, that some stories are meant to fade beautifully. But seeing her again had reminded him how wrong he was. He saw in her not just the woman he once loved, but the reflection of every choice he wished he could make again. He opens the small notebook he always carries, filled with sketches, notes, and pieces of unfinished thoughts. Inside, tucked between pages, is an old theater ticket. The date, the title, everything faded but still readable. La Traviata. The night he took her to see it. He remembers how she laughed at the opera, how her innocence and honesty had softened his guarded world. That memory feels closer now, as if it happened yesterday. He closes the notebook gently, a quiet decision forming in his heart. That afternoon, Vivian steps out, wandering through the city like she's searching for something unnamed. She ends up at a familiar place, the Plaza Fountain. It's quieter now, surrounded by the hum of passing cars and distant chatter. She stands there, staring at the water, watching ripples dance across the surface. Every wave reminds her of time, how it moves, how it changes everything yet somehow keeps the essence of what matters most. She smiles softly. Funny, she murmurs to herself, the city hasn't changed much. It's just learned how to hide its scars. As she turns to leave, she notices a small envelope placed near the edge of the fountain, her name written neatly across it. She hesitates, curious, and picks it up. Inside, a single card, dinner tonight, 7 p.m., the Regent. A small rose petal falls out, pressed and dried, fragile yet beautiful. She stands there for a long moment, her fingers brushing the petal's edge. She wants to resist, to protect the calm she's built over the years. But fate, it seems, isn't done weaving its threads. Evening arrives with a quiet glow. The Regent restaurant is elegant yet intimate. Candlelight flickers across glass and silver, and the soft murmur of music fills the air. Vivian enters slowly, her eyes scanning the room until they find him. Edward rises from his seat, his smile gentle, genuine. For a moment, they simply look at each other, and the world outside fades to nothing. They talk for hours about everything and nothing. About their journeys, their failures, their triumphs. He listens when she speaks about the women she mentors, the girls she inspires to dream. She listens when he speaks about regret, about learning to forgive himself for the walls he built. The conversation flows like an old melody rediscovered. No pretense, no performance, just two souls meeting again where life had once paused them. At one point, the waiter leaves them a bottle of wine. Edward chuckles softly. Do you remember the last time we had wine together? Vivian smiles, a spark in her eyes. Yes, you spilled it on a $10,000 rug. They laugh, truly laugh, the sound echoing like music from another time. For a brief, perfect moment, they are no longer the people shaped by years and distance. They are just Edward and Vivian again, raw, real, alive. But as the laughter fades, reality returns, quiet but steady. Vivian looks down, tracing her finger along the rim of her glass. Do you ever wonder? She says softly, what would have happened if we hadn't walked away? Edward doesn't answer immediately. His eyes drift toward the candle between them, its flame swaying gently. Every day, he admits. But maybe walking away was how we learned what love truly means. She looks up, meeting his gaze. There's truth in his words, but also something unresolved, something waiting to be said. The music shifts again, a soft piano tune playing in the background. Vivian exhales slowly, a smile tugging at her lips. Maybe love doesn't fade, she says quietly. Maybe it just changes its shape until we're ready to see it again. Outside, the rain begins once more, tapping gently against the window. Edward watches the drops slide down the glass and smiles faintly. Then maybe he says, his voice almost a whisper, this is what it looks like now. Their hands rest close on the table, not touching, but close enough to feel the warmth between them. The silence that follows isn't empty. It's full of memories, of forgiveness, of something rediscovered. And as the night deepens around them, one truth becomes clear. Love, no matter how long it sleeps, always finds its way back to those who still believe in it. The night air carries a gentle chill, whispering through the city streets like a secret waiting to be spoken. After dinner, they walk together beneath the soft glow of streetlights, their steps slow, hesitant, to souls afraid to disturb the fragile peace that has grown between them. The rain has stopped, leaving the pavement shining like liquid glass. Their reflections walk beside them, older, wiser, yet bound by the same invisible thread that once tied them together. For a while, they don't speak. The silence is comfortable, almost sacred. Then Vivian looks up, smiling faintly. You still walk too fast, she says. Edward chuckles, slowing down. Old habits die hard. She glances at him, her expression softening. Some do, some never do. They stop near the old bookstore on Fifth Avenue, the kind of place that smells like time and memory. The window displays dusty first editions and love stories from another century. Vivian lingers, her fingers brushing the cold glass. Do you ever think, she begins, that maybe our story was meant to be unfinished? That maybe it was supposed to stay beautiful because it never ended the wrong way? Edward looks at her for a long moment before answering. Maybe, he says quietly. Or maybe it was unfinished because we weren't ready to finish it. A taxi passes, splashing puddles against the curb, and for a second, the sound feels like applause from a world that's been waiting for this moment. Vivian laughs softly, shaking her head. You always did have the last word. He smiles, but his eyes are distant, searching. Not this time, he says. This time, I just want the right one. They walk again, this time without direction, letting the city guide them. Every corner feels familiar, a memory reborn. They pass a flower stand where roses bloom under yellow light, and she pauses. He follows her gaze and buys one, a single red rose, just like before. He hands it to her without a word. She takes it gently, the petals brushing her fingers, and for a moment, it feels like time has folded neatly into the present. The night deepens, and they reach Central Park. The world grows quiet there. Just the sound of their footsteps and the distant sound of a street performer somewhere under the bridge. The man's voice sings softly of love lost and found again. Vivian sits on a bench, the rose resting in her lap. Edward stands beside her, watching the lights of the city flicker like stars fall into earth. Do you ever wonder, she asks, why people always talk about love as if it's a fairy tale? It's not always beautiful. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it's cruel. He nods. Maybe, but maybe that's what makes it real. Fairy tales end. Love doesn't. It just changes shape. She looks at him, her eyes glistening in the dim light. So what are we now, Edward? What shape are we? He smiles subtly, taking a slow breath. Maybe we're just two people who finally learned what forever actually means. The words hang in the air like a promise and a question all at once. Vivian leans back, her gaze fixed on the sky. Clouds drift lazily across the moon, and for the first time in years, she feels a quiet peace of understanding. Maybe love isn't about the perfect ending. Maybe it's about finding your way back after everything that tried to keep you apart. Edward sits beside her, his shoulder brushing hers. The warmth between them is quiet but certain, like a light that never truly went out. Neither speaks. They don't need to. The city hums softly around them, alive, eternal. After a while, Vivian stands. I should go, she says, but her voice trembles just slightly. Edward rises too. Will I see you again? She hesitates, then smiles, the same smile that once turned his world upside down. You never know, she whispers. Fate seems to enjoy surprises. He watches her walk away, her red dress flowing like a streak of fire through the night. And just as she disappears into the curve of the path, she turns back. Their eyes meet across the distance, and in that single glance, every word left unsaid is finally understood. Edward smiles. Vivian smiles back. The years between them vanish. The rain begins again, soft and forgiving. He laughs quietly to himself, whispering under his breath, pretty woman, walking right back into my life. The sound of laughter echoes in the distance, but it's not the kind that warms your heart. It's soft at first, broken, almost human, but not quite. A red balloon drifts across a quiet street, its string brushing against the cracked pavement. The town is asleep, yet something watches. The air feels heavy, almost alive, and for a moment, it's like Derry itself is breathing. Something terrible has returned, not from below the ground, but from inside the town's memory. Every shadow holds a secret, every whisper hides a scream. And tonight, someone is about to hear them all. Derry has always looked ordinary from the outside. Rows of meat houses, soft yellow streetlights, and the smell of wet earth after the rain. But beneath that peaceful surface, there's something that never truly dies. The people walk around pretending everything is fine. But if you look closely, you'll notice that the unease in their eyes, the way they avoid the drains, the way children hurry home before dark. Because everyone in Derry knows the truth, even if they don't speak it. The town remembers things no one else can. In episode 2, the feeling of dread returns like an old friend. It starts small. A missing pet. Strange sounds under the floorboards. Flickering lights in places that haven't had power for years. And then the balloons. Always one at first. Bright red, floating where it shouldn't be. Outside a window, above a playground swing, or bobbing gently in a puddle. People tell themselves it's just a prank. Kids being stupid. But Derry knows better. Derry remembers who it belongs to. The story follows a young man named Jacob, who just moved back to town after decades away. He doesn't remember much about his childhood, just flashes. A bicycle, the old library, a voice calling his name from the drain. He tells himself those were nightmares, the kind every kid has. But Derry doesn't forget. When Jacob steps off the bus and breathes in that cold air, he feels something crawl under his skin. The silence isn't right here. The town seems to hum, faintly, like a distant song only he can hear. As the day turns to night, Jacob wanders through the old streets, trying to find his childhood home. Everything feels smaller now, but the shadows seem longer. The lights flicker in a strange rhythm, like a heartbeat. He stops by a storm drain, just for a second, and hears the faint sound of water rushing below. But beneath it's so quiet it's almost nothing. He hears laughter. Not from a person, but from the dark. He freezes, heart pounding, yet can't move away. It's as if the sound knows his name. He shakes it off, convincing himself it's just nerves. But as he turns the corner, there it is, a single red balloon tied to a rusty fence. The wind blows, and it moves just slightly, enough to make the rubber squeak. His eyes follow the string down, but there's nothing holding it. No one around. Just him and the balloon. He laughs nervously, steps closer, and in that moment, a drop of water falls from above, cold and thick, landing on his hand. He looks up. The drain pipe above him drips slowly, each drop echoing louder than it should. For a second, he swears he sees something move behind the grate. A shape, a reflection, a grin. He stumbles back, nearly falling. The balloon pops. The sound shatters the stillness like a scream, echoing through the street. The lights flicker once, twice, and then everything goes black. Silence, but deep in the dark, something whispers. Not loud enough to understand, just enough to feel. It's not words. It's a promise, a warning. Derry is awake again. The next morning, Derry wakes under a blanket of fog so thick it swallows the sun. The air feels wrong again, quiet, heavy, like the whole town is holding its breath. Jacob barely sleeps. The memory of the balloon popping keeps replaying in his mind, but it's not the sound that bothers him. It's what came after the silence, that deep, cold stillness that felt like something was listening. He tries to tell himself it was nothing, maybe just a dream. But dreams don't leave muddy footprints outside your door. He steps out into the morning mist, his shoes crunching on gravel, and the fog curls around him like fingers. The streets are empty, though he swears he hears footsteps matching his own. When he stops, they stop. When he moves, they start again. The sound fades when he turns the corner, leading him to the old part of town, the one the locals call the Hollow. The buildings here are different. Rotting wood, boarded windows, graffiti messages half covered in red stains. We all float, one reads, the letters dripping like fresh paint. But Jacob can't shake the feeling that it wasn't painted by hands. It looks too uneven, too alive. He walks further in, the fog thickening, the world growing quieter. A streetlight flickers overhead, casting long shadows that seem to move even when he's still. Somewhere in the distance, a swing creaks, slow and steady. The sound is faint, yet rhythmic like a heartbeat made of rust. He follows it. Each step pulls him deeper into the hollow until he finds the playground. It's empty, except for one swing moving on its own. Back and forth, back and forth. The chain squeals with each motion. He stands there, frozen, unsure whether to approach or run. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he sees a shape by the tunnel entrance near the woods, a figure, small, maybe a child, wearing a yellow raincoat. The figure isn't moving, just standing, facing the wall. Jacob calls out softly, his voice trembling. No answer. He takes a step forward, and the figure tilts its head slightly, as if listening. The movement is slow, unnatural, too smooth. He blinks, and the fog thickens. When it clears, the figure is gone. Only the swing moves now. And from the tunnel, a faint voice drifts out, childlike, fragile, almost singing. He edges closer, drawn in by something he can't explain. His heart pounds louder with every step. The tunnel smells of damp stone and rot. The song gets clearer, though he can't make out the words. It's more of a hum now, looping endlessly. He stops just at the mouth of the tunnel, staring into the black. The sound seems to echo from everywhere, bouncing off the walls, filling his ears until he feels dizzy. Then, for just a moment, he hears it again, laughter. Soft, distant, and horribly familiar. Jacob steps back, his shoe crunching over something soft. He looks down. It's a red balloon, half deflated, its surface wet with dew. He doesn't remember seeing it there before. His breath catches. Behind him, something drops a drip of water, followed by another. Then another. He looks up, expecting to see rain leaking from the tunnel roof, but what he sees isn't water. It's dark, thick, and glistening. A slow, sticky line crawling across the stone. It smells metallic. Like blood, he stumbles back again, his chest tight, his vision spinning. The hum from the tunnel grows louder, faster, until it sounds like hundreds of whispers layered together. He covers his ears, but the voices are inside his head now, echoing his name, Jacob, Jacob. The sound stretches, distorts, until it becomes one voice, the voice he remembers from childhood. The one from the drain. Soft, mocking, playful. You came back, it says. We were waiting. The ground beneath him vibrates, a low rumble spreading through the pavement like the town itself is moving. The swing stops. The fog freezes in place, unmoving, as if the world has paused to listen. And then silence. Jacob looks up, shaking, but there's nothing. No sound, no figure, no balloon. Just the empty tunnel staring back at him. But even in the quiet, something has changed. The town isn't sleeping anymore. It's awake and it remembers his name. Night comes early in Derry. The fog thickens, the air turns colder, and the streets begin to fold into silence. Jacob sits in his small rented room above the old hardware store, staring at the floorboards that creak on their own. He keeps the lights on now. Every corner of the room feels like it's watching him. He hasn't told anyone what he saw at the tunnel. He can barely believe it himself, but the image won't leave his head. The yellow coat, the laughter, the sound of something breathing behind the fog. He tries to drown it out with the radio, but every station is just static. Beneath the static, though, he swears he hears something whispering. Like the sound of balloons stretching, he opens his notebook and starts to write, hoping it'll help him make sense of things. It's just the town, he tells himself. Just my imagination. But the more he writes, the more the words don't feel like his. His handwriting changes, looping and messy, as if someone else is guiding his hand. He stops and stares at the page. There's only one sentence written now over and over again. In red ink that he doesn't remember using, we all float again. A sudden knock rattles the door. 3 soft taps. Then silence. Jacob freezes, every nerve in his body tightening. He doesn't move. Another knock, louder this time. He forces a laugh, pretending it's nothing. But when he opens the door, no one's there. Just the hallway stretching out, dimly lit by a flickering bulb. Something drips from the ceiling above, splashing against his bare foot. It's dark, thick, not water. He looks up slowly. The ceiling paint is cracked open, and from within, a single red balloon is pressed against the wood, its surface pulsing as if it's alive. The balloon begins to deflate slowly, whispering out air that sounds almost like laughter. Jacob slams the door and stumbles back, his breath ragged. The radio goes silent,